Hi everyone. So welcome to today's discussion, Ellingham's diagram. Before learning Ellingham's diagram, let us learn about the need of Ellingham's diagram. In the periodic table, whatever the different metals we have, out of all those metals, there is a major group of metals which are considered as ordinary metals, which are having high melting point. Those ordinary metals, they always occurs in their combined state. So in their combined state, majority of them, they occurs as the respective oxides. During the reduction of a metallic oxide into a respective metal by using a suitable reducing agent in a process of smelting, whether the reduction is possible or not, that has to be decided by using delta G values. It is because at the time of reducing a metallic oxide into respective metal by using a suitable reducing agent, there is a competition for oxygen for metal and reducing agent. Reduction is possible only when the reducing agent should have a more affinity towards oxygen when compared to metal. On the other hand, reduction is only in such case where the oxide of the reducing agent should be more stable when compared to oxide of the metal. So between the metal and reducing agent, which one is having more affinity towards oxygen, that has to be decided. After that only we can decide whether one particular substance can be used as a reducing agent or not. For that, to select a suitable reducing agent for the reduction of metallic oxide into metal, we are going to use a diagram called Ellingham's diagram. In that Ellingham's diagram is nothing but a graph which is obtained by plotting delta G versus temperature for the formation of different oxides by the combination of different elements. So different elements combines with 1 mole of oxygen forming the respective oxides. During that process, there is a change in delta G value with the change in temperature. The change in delta G value with the change in temperature can be calculated by the equation delta G is equal to delta H minus T delta S, where delta G is the change in free energy, delta H is the change in enthalpy, T is the temperature, and delta S is the change in entropy. Delta H, that is change in enthalpy, delta S and change in entropy, independently they are insufficient to decide whether the process occurs spontaneously or not, because any non-living substance is having two desires. The first one is they want to have a maximum stability by possessing minimum energy, and the other one is they want to have a maximum entropy. I mean to say there must be decrease in delta H value and there must be increase in delta S value. Though we know the values of delta H and delta S, they are independently not sufficient enough to decide whether the process occurs spontaneously or not. For that, we are going to calculate the values of delta G. By the knowledge of delta G, we can decide whether the process occurs spontaneously or not. For any process for which delta G is negative, the process is spontaneous. When delta G is positive, the process is non-spontaneous. For any process, delta G is equal to 0, the system is at equilibrium. So that in Ellingham's diagram, we are going to plot a graph of delta G versus temperature for the formation of different oxides. Let us discuss the important features of Ellingham's diagram one by one in detail. When we consider the first graph, the first one is formation of carbon dioxide by the combination of carbon and oxygen. During this particular chemical reaction, we are going to neglect the solid carbon dioxide because when we speak about entropy, that is delta S, the entropy of solids is negligible because the entropy of solids is almost considered as 0 since they cannot move randomly. Therefore, when we speak about the entropy, we consider only liquids and gases. For this, for the formation of carbon dioxide by the combination of carbon and oxygen, with increasing temperature, the value of delta G almost remains constant. As a result, the curve moves almost parallel to temperature axis with the zero slope. Hence, the number of moles of gaseous reactants are equal to the number of moles of gaseous products. Where the number of moles of gaseous reactants are equal to the number of moles of gaseous products, the entropy remains same. I mean to say there is no change in entropy. Where there is no change in entropy, there is no change in free energy. As a result, the curve moves parallel to temperature axis with zero slope. Coming to the second point, which is of course very important. For the formation of carbon monoxide by the combination of carbon and oxygen, carbon is a solid, it is neglected, whereas there is 1 mole of gaseous oxygen, which will be converted into 2 moles of carbon monoxide. As the number of moles of gaseous products are get doubled compared to the number of moles of gaseous reactants, there is an increase in entropy. Where there is an increase in entropy, there is a decrease in free energy. As a result, for the formation of carbon monoxide by the combination of carbon and oxygen with increase in temperature, the value of delta G goes on decreases with a negative slope. Whereas, coming to the third point, for most of the metallic oxides, with increase in temperature, the curve moves upwards because during the formation of most of the metallic oxides, by the combination of metal with oxygen, a gaseous oxygen is converted into solid metallic oxide. Where there is a conversion of a gas into solid, there is a decrease in entropy. Where there is a decrease in entropy, there is an increase in Gibbs free energy. So, as a result, for most of the metallic oxides, with increase in temperature, the value of delta G goes on increases, hence the curve moves upwards. Coming to the next point, in certain curves, there will be a sudden change in the slope of the curve at particular temperature. The point or the temperature at which the curve changes the slope suddenly indicates the phase transformation, such as melting and boiling. Where there is a conversion of solid into liquid, that particular temperature is called melting point. At that particular point also, the curve changes the slope suddenly. And where there is a conversion of a liquid into gas, which is called boiling point. During the boiling also, where there is a sudden change in entropy, there is a sudden change in the slope of the curve also. At that particular point, the curve changes the slope suddenly, such as melting and boiling. Coming to the metallic oxides, silver oxide and mercury oxide. And in the Elegans diagram, they are almost at the top of the curve. So with increase in temperature, for silver oxide and mercury oxide, the value of delta G goes on increases and it crosses the zero value and it becomes positive. As the delta G value becomes positive for silver oxide and mercury oxide, these two metallic oxides are highly unstable at high temperature. As a result, oxides of silver and oxides of mercury, they can be reduced to the respective metals just by heating without using any reducing agent. Such type of reduction is called thermal reduction, and it is not possible to reduce all the metallic oxide into respective metals by this particular method, and we are able to reduce metallic oxide into respective metal just by heating without using any reducing agent only in such cases where the metallic oxides are highly unstable. The metallic oxides becomes highly unstable only when the free energy becomes positive. Such oxides in the diagram are indicated only to silver and mercury. As they are at the top of the Elegans diagram with a positive delta G value, they have higher free energy. As a result, the metallic oxides are unstable. Hence, they decompose themselves, giving the respective metal with the release of oxygen. Hence, such oxides can be reduced into the respective metals without using any reducing agent. And remember, for the time of reducing a metallic oxide into metal, the most important one is a metal which is placed in the lower region of the Elegans diagram with a smaller delta G value will have a more affinity towards oxygen, and it will be a good electron donor and a best reducing agent which can reduce any metallic oxide which is placed above in the Elegans diagram. For example, if you observe very carefully, as chromium and aluminium, aluminum is placed below chromium in the Elegans diagram. Therefore, aluminum can reduce chromium oxide into chromium, whereas chromium cannot reduce your aluminum oxide into aluminum. Therefore, between aluminum and chromium, aluminum is the one which is the best reducing agent since it is in the lower region of the Elegans diagram with a smaller delta G value. The one which is having a smaller delta G value will have more affinity towards oxygen and it will be a good electron donor. The one which is a good electron donor will be a best reducing agent which can reduce any metallic oxide into respective metals which are placed in the upper region of the Elegans diagram. And when we are using coke as a reducing agent, from the Elegans diagram it is very clear that at very high temperature, coke is the one which is having a least value of delta G. Because of its least value of delta G, it will be a good electron donor and a best reducing agent. Though Coke is a good reducing agent at high temperature. It is not preferred as a reducing agent because of the following two factors. The first one is it is difficult to attain high temperature where the process becomes more and more expensive and less profitable. The second point is at high temperature, metals like chromium, manganese, etc., they combine with carbon, forming carbide as an impurity. In these two cases, though coke is a good reducing agent, we will not prefer coke as a good reducing agent. In such a case, we are going to use the other gases like carbon monoxide or hydrogen or aluminium as a reducing agent. If aluminium is used as a reducing agent, then it is called Goldsmith alumino-thermite process. And at the time of reducing iron oxide into iron by using coke as a reducing agent, remember 983 Kelvin is the one which is the most important temperature. Below 983 Kelvin, carbon monoxide is a good reducing agent where the process is less and less expensive and more profitable. When once the temperature crosses 983 Kelvin, coke becomes the good reducing agent. In total, we can summarize our discussion by the knowledge of Ellingham's diagram. We are able to select a suitable reducing agent for the reduction of metallic oxide into respective metals. I mean to say, we cannot select a reducing agent blindly. When we select a reducing agent blindly, during the reduction of metallic oxide into metals in metallurgical process, reduction may or may not be possible. Therefore, we always select a suitable reducing agent by the help of Ellingham's diagram, where the process becomes less and less expensive and more profitable. In spite of all these applications, Ellingham's diagram is having its own limitations. I mean to say, by the knowledge of Ellingham's diagram, we can say that the aluminium which is placed in the lower region of Ellingham's diagram can reduce the chromium oxide into chromium, since aluminium is a good reducing agent. We can say or we can select a good reducing agent with the help of Ellingham's diagram, but the rate, the speed at which the reduction takes place cannot be decided by the knowledge of Ellingham's diagram. I mean to say, Ellingham's diagram does not give any information about the rate or speed of a reduction process, but just we are able to select a suitable reducing agent for the reduction of metallic oxide into metal. And the other one is, during the process, most of the metallic oxides during the reduction, they reaches the equilibrium, which is also the limitation of Ellingham's diagram. I hope you have understood this. Please leave your comments.